Is Keir Starmer going to succeed in fixing the foundations? This is what he called. He had that written on the podium. He was speaking, I think it's called the Rose Garden in Downing Street. The weather was perfect for him, of course, yesterday. Is he going to succeed in fixing the foundations of the UK's economy? Wednesday, August 28th, 2024, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. We're going to look at the truth about the UK's £22 billion black hole. We're going to look at the fact that we are all Fabians now. Yes, not just in the UK, but I would say all around Western Europe. Many of you probably haven't heard much about the Fabians, but it's a very important institution that's been around for over a century. And I want to talk a little bit now about myself and how my family has evolved over the last, let's say, 140 years, because it's got a lot to do with what's going on now. There's a lot of speculation here in the UK as it pertains to taxation. We're being told that they're coming after middle upper class and the wealthy people. They're coming after your property. They're coming after your capital gains. And there's a lot of talk. Where should I leave to? Where should I go? And yeah, that's where my family comes in, because on my father's side, my great-grandfather left Naples back in 1892. He went to Brazil to try to have more opportunities, a better life as a young man, and he did. By 1913, he moved his family back to Italy because things had picked up. He'd like built up a family, but 1 year later, with the outbreak of the needless war, the First World War, he didn't want his sons or my grandfather included to fight in that war. So they all went back to Brazil. So, and then 70 years later, my father decided to take me and my sisters and our family to Switzerland, because he didn't see Brazil as a good place to be. Brazil was in a mess, of course, inflation, hyperinflation, and it was a good decision. And I personally moved to the UK about 32 years ago. I have built my family here. I have done well personally here in the UK, and I am concerned about what they might do, but the more I look at history, and not just history in general, but the history of my family, I kind of wonder, is it really worth it to keep moving around trying to fight the central bankers, big government, taxation, socialism, because that's what it's all about. I think what we need to do is use the strategy of the Fabians. And the Fabians are socialists. Now, I'm not saying you should become a socialist. I'm saying you should use their strategy. But it's a very long-term thing. And it's something that you need to ingrain in your family, so that your grandchildren, their children, will think outside the box and survive anywhere, even in a place like 21st century socialist Britain. So who were the Fabians? Well, you can go through it on Wikipedia. It says the Fabian Society is a British socialist organization whose purpose is to advance the principles of social democracy. I'm not sure about the democracy, and democratic socialism via gradualist reformist and effort in democracies rather than by revolutionary overthrow. So the name itself, Fabian, comes from this. The Fabian Society was named at the suggestion of Frank Podmore in honor of the Roman general Quintus Fabius Maximus Verrucosus, and he was nicknamed Cunctator, which means the delayer. His Fabian strategy sought gradual victory against the superior Carthaginian army under the renowned general Hannibal through persistence, harassment, and wearing the enemy down by attrition rather than pitched climatic battles. And it's this strategy that I think we need to adopt as individuals. We need to be persistent. I'm not, and by being persistent and knowing our enemy and not fighting stupid battles like rioting or looting, but just staying in the background, I think, over the years, through your, trying to make sure your family remains self-sufficient. I think that's the best strategy. The Fabian strategy doesn't mean, of course, that we're going to become socialists. And according to author John Perdue, he says the logo of the Fabian Society, a tortoise, represented the group's predilection for a slow, imperceptible transition to socialism, while its coat of arms, a wolf in sheep's clothing, represented its preferred methodology for achieving its goal. The wolf in sheep's clothing symbolism was later abandoned due to its obvious negative connotations. Yes, it was abandoned, but we know about it. So socialism is very similar to communism, of course. And one of the planks of the Communist Manifesto is centralized credit or a central bank. And now I'm going to hop over to the 22 billion black hole that we have in the UK in the UK accounts in the Treasury. First, I'd like to say that 22 billion, I've done the calculation here, is a fairly insignificant amount in percentage terms to GDP. UK GDP, I think, is about 2.4 trillion. It might be a little more, a little less. So if you look at 22 billion, that's just under 1% of GDP. So they're making a big deal out of this. And why are they making a big deal out of this? Well, because they want to justify their Fabian strategy. The Fabians are coming out. They're, how can I say? Yeah, they're coming out of the closet. And just to give you an example of famous Fabians, well, Tony Blair, he's a Fabian. Ed Balls is a Fabian. I wouldn't put it past Keir Starmer being a Fabian. I'm not sure if he is, but he is following in the footsteps of Tony Blair. And the thing about the Fabians is that their strategy is so such a great strategy, because people don't even notice it. It's really gradual, and they've been able to infiltrate not just the Labour Party, because the Labour Party is a Fabian, how can I say, institution as well. It was created by the Fabians, but it's infiltrated even the Conservative Party, because if the Conservative Party was really against socialism and the welfare state, they would have, how can I say, gotten rid of a lot of the welfare and socialism that we have They've had 14 years. They had, with under Margaret Thatcher, over 10 years as well. Even though I think Margaret Thatcher might have been really a threat to the Fabians, but it's difficult to say because they infiltrate not just politics, but society. So there is a lot of people in Britain, of course, that are not socialists, but I would say that they've infiltrated the culture, and it's going to be a tough way to get out of socialism. And the other institution that they created was the London School of Economics, which is a Fabian institution. And a lot of famous people went to that school. Paul Volcker, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, attended the London School of Economics. So it infiltrates the whole world. Even in the US, of course, the Democratic Party, the Democrats are Fabians. Even the Republicans are Fabians. It seems like Trump is fighting the Fabians, but he even admitted that he's going to keep funding Social Security and Medicare, which is a socialist Fabian construct from the Great Depression by FDR, who definitely behaved like a Fabian. And what is the goal of the Fabians? Well, the goal of the Fabians is pretty much like the globalists and the World Economic Forum. That's why they get along so well. They want control by a technocracy, and they do want a few wealthy people, but not too many. And they want the masses to be subservient to them. To have no incentive to be self-reliant and build things up. And the big corporations, of course, are all in it because it's the best way to fight the competition when you don't allow small businesses, mom and pop businesses to grow. And what you do, you punish them through taxation. And you can bet a lot of the very wealthy and the big corporations, they're going to get away with Keir Starmer's Fabian attack. And the other truth about the Fabian, well, not the Fabian, but this 22 billion hole is the Bank of England. And the Bank of England is the instrument that finances socialism and one world government here in the UK. Central banks everywhere. And this is why you will never hear anyone talk about abolishing the Bank of England, bringing in a real free market in money and credit. Well, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, who's coming out with this painful budget, I think that's what Keir Starmer called it, on October 30th, guess where she started her career? At the Bank of England. So what's the Bank of England got to do with this black hole? Well, most people think that the Bank of England was nationalized in 1946, so it's part of the government. But I've got news for you. It's still the instrument of the bankers, the international bankers and the big corporations that are moving us to this Fabian nightmare world. And what they did in 08-09 with the QE here in the UK, they printed, along with the QE they did in 2020, they printed almost £1 trillion to buy government bonds, to buy mortgage debt, even some corporate debt, I think the Bank of England bought. But the problem is that they're losing hundreds of billions now, that the bonds that they bought are losing value because yields and interest rates are going up. So Chancellor Osborne, who was part of the Conservatives over 10 years ago, told the Bank of England, well, we will fill those losses with taxpayers' money. So That's where that 22 billion is going to. Is going to the Bank of England. And why should we bail out the Bank of England? Well, because without the Bank of England, without its currency, fiat currency, these Fabians can't keep going. And I'm going to come to that in a minute. One of the long-term strategies for you and your family of how to fight the Bank of England and their fiat currency, so that you can make sure that your family is self-sufficient and as sovereign as possible, because what I'm talking about here is not perfect, but it's a battle, it's a war. So this is from The Economist, and it came out August 8th, and it says, current plans have the Treasury paying 20 billion or so a year until 2032. These commitments collide unpleasantly with Britain's main fiscal rule, that debt should be falling as a share of GDP in the final year of a 5-year forecast horizon. In effect, therefore, the payments knock 20 billion off the government's room to borrow. There you go. There's the 20 billion or so, 22 billion. That is a big number. The last budget in March left the government with just 8.9 billion in fiscal headroom. Ms. Reeves has since spent more than that on public sector pay rises. The previous government's plans also include around 30 billion in future public service cuts, which many find implausible. So it's all about the Bank of England and its currency. So now I want to talk about one of the strategies that I've learned personally. It wasn't from my father or my great-grandfather. And this is the strategy of protecting your savings from confiscation via inflation, and here in the UK, from capital gains taxes, because that's something big that's coming out here. As you can see, the Telegraph is reporting, middle class has braced for Keir Starmer's capital gains tax rate. So what's one of the secrets, I think, and it's not going to be a secret for you because I'm going to tell you, that will help you protect yourself and your family to some extent against this Fabian confiscation, this socialist one world government central banking confiscation. Well, it's converting your savings into the globalists' money. And what is the globalist money? Well, it's gold. That's what Lindsay Williams always said. The elite's money is gold. So here in the UK, coins of the realm, which basically are coins minted by the Royal Mint, and they have to have the monarch on the obverse. They're capital gains tax free, be it gold or silver. And why is that? Well, because they're legal tender, they're money. Yes, people don't use them, but I bet the elites probably deal amongst each other with gold and silver, I would say. Is it possible that they will drop that exemption from capital gains tax? Well, yeah, everything's possible, but as of now, I don't think they're going to do that, because so few people own gold in this country. So I'm going to show you here. It's not a Britannia. It's one of the new coins. It's a St. George's Slaying the Dragon 1 ounce gold coin. So that is capital gains tax free. So what that means, if you buy it today for £2,000, 1 ounce, and let's say in 5 years' time, gold is at £8,000 and you've made £6,000. Normally, with the capital gains tax, you'd have to pay 20% on everything above 3,000, the profit above 3,000. So you'd have to pay 20% on £3,000 because you have made £6,000 profit, and that would be, yeah, that would be quite a big £600 in tax. But now they're talking about raising the capital gains tax rate to the top rate of income tax, which is 45%. So can you imagine if you're paying the top rate and you've made 3,000 pounds here above the threshold, you're going to be paying almost half of that profit on that 3,000 to the government. And that's why I think this is a good strategy. The other reason why gold and silver are so important is because they can't be created out of thin air. It's much harder to find gold, to produce gold, than to create all the trillions that the Bank of England creates out of thin air, or the hundreds of billions. And the simple law of supply and demand, makes the currency less valuable. And it's one of the reasons they're taxing they're going to tax you a lot more, especially those who have been able to create some wealth. And a lot of that wealth, actually, of course, is because of inflation. House prices look high, not because houses have improved, but mainly because they've killed the currency so much, they debased it so much that they want some of it back. That's the reason they're doing it. And just to give you an example of why this is a Fabian strategy, well, back in 1971, I think the troy ounce of gold was around 17 pounds, and now we're almost at 2,000 pounds. We're around 900, 1,900. So it's a long-term thing. It's a long-term thing. It's a way to leave wealth to your heirs, and you need to find a way to keep it also away from the inheritance tax. I'm not a tax advisor here, but you can think about it and work it out yourself. I think it's pretty obvious. There are other, if you can't afford about 2,000 pounds, there's a sovereign as well, which is just under a quarter of an ounce. That's up to around almost 500 pounds now, about 450, 470. And if you can't afford that, there's a half sovereign, which is about half the sovereign. And I think the Royal Mint is minting quarter sovereigns as well. So they're giving you a chance here to get out of the system. What's the other strategy aside from protecting your savings for future generations, I would say? Well, the other strategy is to teach your children and grandchildren that they need to be self-reliant, that they need to, they should not depend on the state for their livelihood. Yes, they need to participate, unfortunately, in all the socialist shenanigans, paying taxes, national insurance, and all that, but always have it in their minds that they're sovereign and independent. I think that's the best way to lead your. Well, it's not a perfect strategy, I admit. It's very hard to fight such a monolithic power. Well, the other option is to go live somewhere like Sark, the Isle of Sark in the Channel Islands. There's only 500 people there. There's no tax there whatsoever, except kind of council tax on your property. But then you're going to be in a little place there and isolated. So you have to make your choice, and it's different for everyone. So this is a bit of a longer video because I think this is important. So is Keir Starmer going to succeed in fixing the foundations? This is what he called. He had that written on the podium. He was speaking, I think it's called the Rose Garden in Downing Street. The weather was perfect for him, of course, yesterday. Is he going to succeed in fixing the foundations of the UK's economy? I don't think so, because he's not taking the small government, free market, sound money route. So there's no way that things are going to be fixed, and things are just. I think what they're trying to do is muddle through, but there could be a collapse as well if a lot of you wake up and start buying this, and if you can't afford this, you can start buying this as well. I know there's VAT on this, but if the Bank of England's currency collapses, and that's one of the hopes we have, you won't care about the VAT. And before I look at what he said yesterday, make sure you check my affiliates, not just here in the UK, but in the US, if you're interested in starting to buy gold and silver to protect yourself and your family. And a lot of you already use my affiliates. All the details are below in the description of this video, and all my videos for that matter. So he said his number one priority is growth. And he said that growth has to come through wealth creation. So this is how he's going to create wealth, he thinks, right? National Wealth Fund. That's the first way. Just because it says a National Wealth Fund, he thinks that it will create wealth. And I don't think it will, because it's a fund run by bureaucrats. It's a government creation. So the government is going to get in the business of investments. Do you think that's going to work? And he said as well, he wants every person in the community to benefit. That seems very vague to me. He also said, we're going to build 1.5 million new homes. My question is, who's we? Is that going to be the private sector or the government? And is building homes really building wealth? I guess partly. But homes are just like an instrument for people, to use, so that they can have shelter and then they can go out and create wealth. So it's not really wealth itself. Well, the other great wealth creation exercise is going to be another government creation, the great British energy company. He said it's going to be owned by us, the taxpayer, and making money for us. So hopefully we'll get a dividend check every quarter. I wouldn't hold my breath, though. And he said it's going to cut people's bills. Well, they're going to raise utility bills by 10% from October. How's that work? And he said it's going to create good jobs. What are good jobs? Keir Starmer. He also said that by ending strikes and raising public sector wages is going to help create wealth. I'm not sure how that will play out. He says it's because people will be able to go to work and create wealth because there's not going to be any disruptions. But people can't afford to go to work. A lot of people can't commute because the prices of price of public transport is really high in this country. So, he said it's a painful budget. He says we're going to have clean energy. We're going to have a great NHS. And this is how he's going to fix the country. This is how he's going to create wealth. So no mention of cutting the size of government, cutting taxes, cutting red tape, and allowing individuals to flourish. No, it's all based on the government controlling everything. And that is, unfortunately, a Fabian strategy. So the other thing about this 22 billion black hole, which is really going to the Bank of England, and it's going there for many years to come, every year, about 22 billion. Could get worse if the bond market drops even further. But they could have gotten this 22 billion from the 11 billion that they're going to send to foreign countries to fight climate change, or 3.5 billion for as long as the Ukraine needs per year to fight the Russians. So that's 14.5 billion there. So yeah, they could have gotten rid of a lot of that black hole, but they're not going to do it. And they've punished, of course, the pensioners with the winter fuel allowance. And that in itself is the problem with socialism. When you promise people and people get something from Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, we always run out of other people's money. And that's what Margaret Thatcher said once. So that's how I see it. And it's not just happening here in the UK. You can see that the whole of Western Europe, they're all Fabians as well. The US is Fabian. You might not think so, but it is. And even if Trump wins, will it change much? I'm not too sure. Is Trump fighting the Fabians? It would definitely be nice if he were. But I wouldn't hold my breath. I would stick to the Fabian strategy and look after yourself, look after your family, look after your assets as well as you can. And that's all I can say. And I don't have a magic solution or a magic bullet for any of this. Again, moving to another country, it's a big risk. And is there any other country that is completely free, where government doesn't interfere with the individual? Well, not really. There are a few micro states like Monaco and Liechtenstein and others that are relatively free, but they're very expensive to go and live in. So I'm going to stop right here and wish you all a very good day. Take care. Bye.